Hi everyone. Our presentation is on the developmental effects of screen time. Our presenters are Nancy Gomez, Yoselin Gonzalez Macias, Judith Duran, Jasmine Aguilar, and Elizabeth Morelos. The goal of our presentation is to help parents learn and understand the developmental effects of what an excessive amount of screen time can do to a child. Our focus will be on children from around birth to 5 years of age. To start off our presentation, I have included 3 words that I feel are necessary to understanding our topic of conversation. The first, screen time. This is defined as the time spent watching television, playing video games, or using any electronic device with a screen. The next word is neuroplasticity. This is defined as the capacity for continuous alterations of the neural pathways and synapses of the living brain and nervous system in response to experience or injury. And the next word is child development. This refers to the sequence of physical, language, through and emotional changes that occur in a child from birth to the beginning of adulthood, and this includes a variety of factors. Knowing
In this slide, I will be sharing some statistical information that we think is important for you guys to know. To begin, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends less than 1 hour per day of screen time for children ages 2 to 5. They also recommend that children under 18 months should not use any screen media except for video chatting. In a study I found, it was shown that American children ages 0 to 8 use screen media for an average of 3 hours and 19 minutes each day. It was also shown that children under 2 spend about 42 minutes, and children ages 2 to 4 spend an average of 2 hours and 40 minutes. Studies also show that excessive screen time leads to developmental delays.
This next slide includes some models that show the developmental effects of screen time. In the model to the left, we can see how excessive screen time affects cognitive development, mental health, physical health, and social-emotional development. Some of the consequences include sleeping problems, addiction, affected school ability, as well as an increased aggression, to name a few. The model on the top right shows what a normal brain should look like, as well as a brain who has been sensory deprived. It occurs with the reduction of external stimuli, which then leads to more developmental issues. The last picture, you can see that screen time is being introduced as early as 4 months to babies, as opposed to 50 years ago when it was introduced at age 4.
Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Our goal is to ensure that U.S. parents learn and understand the developmental effects of what an excessive amount of screen time can do to a child. After participating in this webinar, you, the parent, should be able to 1. Explain the long-term consequences of avid screen time. 2. Explain how to minimize the uses of technology in your home. 3. Identify strategies to set limits on screen time use. 4. List at least 5 indoor and outdoor activities that will benefit both you and your child. And 5. Create a tech-free environment in your household. Now let's talk about the first objective, the long-term consequences of avid screen time. How much is too much? The more exposure to a screen, the more likely a child will be developmentally behind their peers. The early stages of life, a child's mind is in a critical phase of development. As they explore the world around them, they are developing skills that will last a lifetime. It strikes a world of curiosity. However, this won't be happening when time is spent on an iPad or phone screen. Ultimately, these consequences of spending too much time on a device can lead to long-lasting effects well into adulthood. Language is what a child learns through interactions with adults. Unlike involvement with screens, a reciprocal conversation with adults usually involves facial expression and emotional input. This is much more beneficial for a child's language development. Children who spend much more time on their screens usually show lower concentration and attention levels and have difficulty in reading. Sleep is also affected. It's something that everyone needs. The blue light that occurs from the screen can cause sleep deprivation by inhibiting the secretion of the sleep hormone melatonin. This can hamper with the cognitive development of a child and can cause many children to experience sleep disturbances at night if exposed to screens extensively throughout the day. And lastly, social emotional skills. Excessive amounts of screen time can modulate a child's emotional behavior in many ways. When a child becomes too reliant on digital media, it holds back their inability to use their imagination and lowers their motivational skills. Because of this increased screen addiction, children can often cannot be entertained by nearby people. Sometimes it causes frustration, anxiety, and impulsive behaviors with these children. Too much exposure can reduce a child's inability to read facial expression and learn social skills, which causes an impact on the child's overall empathy level.
Our second objective will teach participants how to minimize the use of technology in their household. We will go over tips on how parents can follow a daily routine in order to bond and build relationships. Setting a timer for your child allows them to know what is going to happen next. After setting a timer, your child knows what to expect. Set boundaries. Tell a child that they have 30 minutes to play on their device, and if they begin to cry, which is normal, explain to them that they only have 30 minutes a day, and hold that boundary. After the timer is going off and they are still crying, tell your child that they can try again tomorrow, but we are all done with the tablet today. Next, give them a choice. Would you like to play with an activity inside or outside? When the timer goes off, children will slowly begin to learn that they are done with the tablet because the timer is an indication that they are all done for the day. It is important to explain to the child what the timer means. Sometimes you might say to them, I am going to set the timer on my phone for 30 minutes. When the timer is done, it is time to find a different activity. Do you want to help me press the timer? When you allow them to press the timer, they feel in control and it makes them feel good. Also, as 30 minutes are approaching, warn your child, 5 more minutes on the tablet and then we're all done. The more the child is prepared, they will transition easily. Especially with COVID, it is difficult for parents to manage their work schedules and their child's schedule. However, following a routine is helpful for children and parents in order to help minimize the use of technology. Parents, remember, if you want your child to use their tablet less, then you had to minimize your use of technology too. You're an example to your child. Weekday and weekends routines will look completely different. An example of a school day routine can look something like eating upon revival, homework if in preschool, or going over paperwork. Then allow your child to help you prepare for the next day, such as packing lunch or choosing an outfit. Next, chores. Chores that toddlers can help with is getting the mail, watering plants, putting shoes away, or putting toys away. Then a child can choose what activity they want to engage in. It can be watching TV or playing with toys. Dinner will be next, and then getting ready for bed. This can include showering, brushing teeth, and reading a book. Following a routine maintains a child occupied and they are not eager to play on their tablet. Also, this allows parents and children to build strong relationships. During this time, children are receiving a lot of back and forth conversations while bonding. During the weekends, children and families have a lot of time to bond, and this can be a time where families do fun things together. An example of a toddler schedule can begin between 7 and 9 in the morning. During this time, families can prepare breakfast together or watch a movie together. Young children enjoy hands-on activities. Then, setting time to get out of the house is always fun for a young child. However, with COVID in the picture, playing outside is an option. Water play is an easy and fun activity for a child, or families can provide their child with a new activity and it can be made with an object they already have at home. For example, playing with cups. Children can build towers or fill with water and transfer to other cups. Then, at 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., can be lunch or nap time. During this time, parents can use their technology or find some time to relax. After nap time, children can engage in independent play. During this time, children can play with their toys or have a 30-minute of technology time. Then, it is dinner time. At this time, children can help set up for dinner or cook with their family. During family play, parents can dedicate this time to playing with their children or providing their child with an activity. Lastly, 7 to 8 p.m. is dedicated to transitioning to bedtime, relaxation time for parents after a long day.
In the next few slides, I'm going to be talking about strategies that could be helpful to parents to set limits for screen time use. The first strategy that I will be talking about is setting time limits. As Jocelyn explained earlier, setting a timer is a really great strategy to reduce screen time use and set limits. Letting a child know how much time they have for screen time and being consistent with that rule will make setting limits much easier. In a research article that I found, most parents explain that being consistent with time limits made transition smoother and time limits much easier to follow. For younger children, a parent can place a timer next to the child so that they know when their time is up. A parent can also place another preferred activity next to the child so that when their time is up, they will see it and will want to play with that other activity. This strategy also helped me in my past work with children. I would place a timer next to the child when they were using their tablet or iPad or another preferred activity, and I would give them prompts when their time got closer. This made transitions much smoother and reduced the amount of tantrums. The second strategy that I will be talking about is about eliminating technologies that offer autoplay or video suggestions. As we all know, autoplay or video suggestions can make it harder for us as adults and children to transition and move on to the next task as the next video automatically starts playing or we get suggestions of videos that we like to watch. YouTube Kids and Amazon Kindle actually have tools that allow parents to set a timer for screen time use. For example, if a parent downloads one of these technologies to their child's iPad or tablet and they set a time limit, when the child is actually using their tablet or using their screen, a reminder will pop up on the child's screen telling them that their time is up. In a study that I found, parents mentioned that when a screen told their child that their time was up, children were significantly less upset. Here we can see how we can use technology to our advantage and set limits to make transitions much smoother. The last strategy that I will be talking about is creating a schedule and rules together with your child. As Jocelyn talked about in her slides, creating a schedule with your child is a great way to reduce screen time use. Including your child when creating a schedule will make them feel involved and motivated. You can negotiate with your child on certain activities in the schedule, and you can both choose when the child will have time for screen use. For very young children, creating a schedule with pictures will be helpful in them understanding what is happening next. Using a schedule with pictures actually helped me when I worked with children that had special needs, and it made it much easier for the child to see what activity was coming next. I would actually let the child pick some of the activities for the schedule while still including tasks that needed to be completed. If a child starts complaining or throwing a tantrum, the parent can point to the schedule and explain that it is time for dinner or homework or whatever is next on the schedule.
Objective 4: Indoor and outdoor activities. In the following slides, we will be talking about activities that can lessen parents' and child's screen time. Now I will be talking about 5 indoor activities that both parent and child can do together in order to strengthen their relationship bond and strengthen the child's learning development. The first activity is I Spy, which strengthens language development and social development. The second activity is a game called Claw Machine. This is an activity that can help a child strengthen their motor skills and practice their eye-hand coordination. The third one is simple word games, which can strengthen their vocabulary and help them practice phrases. The fourth activity is reading a book. This helps a child develop language skills and rich communication skills, and it also helps to strengthen the bond between caregiver and child. The last activity is to plant a garden. This helps with the child's cognitive skills. Now, I will be talking about 5 indoor activities that can help families reduce screen time and help their child's development. The first activity is doing a scavenger hunt, which helps children practice problem solving and is an activity that both parent and child can enjoy. The second one is planting a garden, which helps children practice their locomotor skills, body management skills, and control skills. Gardening also helps families bond and create memories together. The third activity is beanbag toss, which is an activity that helps children's motor skills and is also a game that adults can enjoy. The fourth activity is bike riding. This helps children improve their physical fitness, helps with learning development, and mental health. The last activity is playing a sport, which helps with language, social, and motor development. Not only that, but helps family get closer and strengthen their communication skills.
Our fifth and last objective will teach parents how to set up tech-free times and spaces as a family. We will go over strategies that will allow for more family quality time and less use of technology. The first strategy we will be using is to aim for balance. So first of all, it's important to note that balance for you and your family is going to be different than, say, your neighbor or any other family, because everyone has their own unique parenting style and values differ from family to family. With that being said, it is important to balance online and offline activities. For example, we must draw firm lines for tech-free zones, such as during meal times, in the car, or 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. For babies, it's best to limit technology usage to a bare minimum if possible. Instead of using technology, if you're unable to tend to the baby, you can give them toys or books that will allow for them to use all of their senses. If you really want to use technology with your baby, it's probably best if you use it together, so sing and talk and read with your child instead of them doing it alone. Now, the second strategy, and probably the most important, is to be a role model. Technology also draws in parents as much as it does kids, and we tend to consistently check our phones and binge watch our favorite shows, as well as be distracted while walking and being on our phone without even noticing half the time. If your kid is viewing this behavior, then they are more likely to copy the behavior. But on top of that, sometimes they may feel that they have to compete with the device to gain your attention. Nearly half of parents in one study reported technology interfering with interactions with their child 3 or more times on a typical day. This is why it's important to set boundaries for work, time, and family time. It's important to differentiate between these two times because it will allow for you to interact more with your family when you're at home. And it's also important to know when you're really busy and you need to be plugged in doing your work, as well as when you're not that busy and it can wait, like during meal times or when you're picking up your kids from school or during family trips. Another thing to keep in mind is that you should be using media the way you want your children to. You may want to avoid oversharing on social media, as well as spending a lot of time on social media and caring about what other people think, because these behaviors are learned at a very young age. The last strategy is to make tech a family affair. So the first thing you can do is set rules as a family. This way the child will know what is expected of them, and this way kids are also less likely to refuse the limitations that are set if they have a role in creating and establishing the rules. Being involved with your child's tech experience has several benefits. First of all, you'll be able to know what kind of content they are accessing, and the child is able to learn more from the activity with your interaction, and you'll even form a bond through the experience. And it's very important to know that what works for one child is not going to necessarily work for another one. That depends on maybe their age or their personality and their needs. Some kids are more independent than others, and it's okay to tailor your approach to each child as you see fit. It's a matter of finding out what works for your child and what doesn't.
With COVID-19, the possibility of staying offline can be challenging. However, here I've listed websites and applications that I feel are helpful in finding ways to entertain the entire family as well as yourself. The first one I thought of was Pinterest. This one allows you to find simple DIYs and ideas at the touch of your fingertips, so I cannot help but recommend this. Family Education was also a great website that I found because it's dedicated to giving parents the answers to questions that they are often embarrassed to ask. Here I included the link to some Christmas activities. Another website that I was able to find is a sort of survival guide that pertains to parents that need to find ways to entertain their children because of the ongoing pandemic. It lists a ton of activities that I feel I would have never thought of in a million years.
Our evaluation will be anonymous in order to make participants feel comfortable. After the presentation, the program evaluation will be accessible to participants, and we will briefly go over the evaluation to clarify questions. The program evaluation will allow us as presenters to see what strategies worked and what did not work. We would find out if the population learned the information we intended to present by asking 3 ways parents can minimize the usage of technology, and if the program met the family's needs.
As we have all experienced, no presentation is perfect, and we all came across some limitations and shortfalls while creating our presentation. The first limitation is that we were unable to communicate as a group in person. Even though we have the technology that has made communication with each other possible, COVID in our current circumstances has made it harder for us to communicate and plan out this presentation. Our next limitation is the fact that we were unable to present our webinar in person. We know that listening to our voices is not the same as watching us present this important information in person to our audience. Not being able to present in person has also limited the chance for our audience to ask questions and have an active discussion. Participants were also unable to interact directly, and they were unable to ask questions and have their questions answered.
In the past, children were introduced to technology at the age of 4, but now they are introduced to it at the age of 4 months. Since electronic devices are now introduced at such a young age, screen time has affected the way that children's learning development works. Not only that, but it has also shown that it causes long-term consequences. Some of the consequences that screen time can cause is sleep deprivation, change in behavior, and lack of social skills. Therefore, parents should know how to limit their child's screen time by learning the long-term effects of screen time, way to minimize the usage of technology, strategies to limit screen time, activities that both parent and child can do together, how to set up tech-free times, and getting to know their resources. By following this presentation, we hope that parents will be able to understand that excessive amount of screen time can damage their child's learning development.